The placement display option is pretty straightforward here. You're going to place an object to the left, to the center, or to the right side of the page. By default, everything is placed to the left, but you can certainly move it to the center or right very easily. Now again, this is similar to what we covered in when we talked about the use attribute, in that if you're going to place an object to the right or center, if it's taken 100% of the width of the page, it's going to be pretty tough to move it in any one direction. So if you're going to use placement, you're going to want to set width again. So I'm going to go back and edit content element 1, and in this case I'm going to leave it as an inline object, but I'm going to mark it as center, and I'm going to set its width to 329 pixels. Alright, so that's going to be roughly half the size of the page, and then I'm just going to save my page. Alright, so now I can see that the content element is centered on the page. Now, centering it really only applies for inline objects, because in HTML you cannot float something to the center. It doesn't make any sense. It'd be like trying to get this text to wrap around this content element, which would be great, but HTML doesn't work that way. So just keep that in mind when you're working on this stuff. So again, if you want to change it and move this thing to the right, you can inspect it, and then position it to the right and save it. Now, keep in mind this is still an inline object, so sort of to reinforce what we talked about in the last two parts of this series, if I went and changed the use attribute on this element to float, then it would float to the right of the next inline element. Okay, so floating objects always float left to right of the element that follows it. Alright, so when I save it, now you'll see that this element is floating to the right of this element. And if this element had maybe another paragraph of text, say we edit this, just to help you fully understand that, I'm going to take this text and I'll copy it and paste it down here. Alright, so I'm doubling the length of this paragraph of text just to show you that when an object is floating to the right of a content element, it is now being wrapped by the text in that element. Alright, so that's it for placement. Simple and easy.